Hello my friends, this is Wake Angel 2001, and I was planning on making this video earlier in the month, but like I said, I got the flu last week, so everything was just thrown off. So we are going to do the 2024 retrospective. Take a look at all the figures I made and, get to have a nice little victory lap of what I did last year. Just as a quick reminder, the first thing that I made was a cute little fox girl OC, and the last thing I made was a wedding cake topper. An interesting little thing to, to go from beginning to end, starting on a traditional note and ending on something really big and elaborate. That actually seemed pretty fitting for the year. But, we're gonna do the whole retrospective, and I decided to break it down to categories so everything is nice and digestible. I am effectively a Sonic tuber, so I guess we should really start by taking a look at the Sonic figures. So, 2024 saw me go all the way back to my roots. My longtime watchers might remember that the very first proper custom figure I ever made was Scourge the Hedgehog. I'm not even sure if my original Scourge has a video. It might just be something that was only on DeviantArt, because back then I didn't really think of using YouTube that way. I'm not even sure, it's been such a long time. But yes, I made another Scourge figure, and even his super forms, Super Scourge, which is something that really takes me back. Of course, these are still Jazzwares figures, so I have not yet had the honor of making Scourge in the Jakks Pacific line, but, it's just good to get back to the old things. And speaking of super forms, this is actually a pretty good bumper year for non-Sonic super forms, as I took that Easter Knuckles and painted his shoes the regular color so he'd look like a proper Super Knuckles figure, and I even made Super Knuckles and Super Tails in the modern aesthetic. Something that technically doesn't exist except for like one or two panels in the Archie comic, but not from the proper video games at all. This year saw the first time I've ever made Super Knuckles and Super Tails. Super Sonic is in there for completion's sake. I did not make that figure. It was also a good year for the Deke version of the characters, particularly Sad AM Sonic, who I made 3 times. I made him once in the 2.5-inch scale and twice in the 4-inch scale. And the 4-inch scale figures had companion pieces. One of them had my very, it wasn't the first time I'd done it, but one of the biggest figures I've ever made of the Saturday morning Dr. Robotnik figure, which was quite the challenge to do, and on a little Tails. You always gotta have a Sad AM Tails. I made Sad AM Tails and Sad AM Sonic in this scale before, so it's not like it was anything super new, but it is good to know that people still appreciate it. Speaking of things that are still appreciated, this is also a good year for Princess Sally, as I got to paint another one of those 3D is sexy statues, as well as finally make a Princess Sally in the 4-inch scale for myself. Something that I'm actually genuinely surprised with myself that I hadn't done much sooner. Of course, I didn't just indulge for my own purposes. I also made Sally in another post-Super Genesis Wave Sally, along with a bunny rabbit to go with her. And as a bonus, this Sally actually had elbow joints installed. That was so that actually kind of made it a collaborative project between me and the commissioner, because they're the ones that added those elbows. And the Deke Glove didn't stop there, as I also made a Queen Alina. Again, this isn't the first time I've done it, but it's actually probably the most accurate one, because it uses an actual 3D model that someone had made of her head, and I did my best to try and match the aesthetic to that cartoon. I'm not sure if she would count as a 4-inch scale, because I did use a 4-inch figure, or she'd just be a really tall 3-inch scale figure. I think she works better with a 4-inch scale anyway. But yeah, I also remember that this Alina was quite annoying because the figure used so much soft goods, and I made a promise to myself to never make a figure that uses soft goods to this extent again in the future. Then we move on to the robots. Metal Sonic Mark III is one that can really show the full spectrum of how much effort goes into a custom. The ones on the left are a very simple arm swap between two Metal Sonic figures so that they could have symmetrical arms. This means that one is good at a neutral stance and can do standard poses. I have him doing a little 3-point landing here just for fun. And the other one, with the two sideways elbows, is really good at doing major gesticulating things, even if he can't really do anything too neutral. And then, on the other end of the spectrum, was a Jazzwares Metal Sonic figure that I completely repainted into the Mark III color scheme. So yeah, a simple arm swap that takes 20 minutes versus an entire freaking repaint that took, painting yellow and black. It looks really cool, but you gotta be careful with that because yellow is a very difficult color to do touch-ups on. So yeah, crazy spectrum there. This also saw me make my first real figure of Mecha Sonic Mark II from the video games. I lucked out that the Sonic Prime figures happen to be 5-inch scale because it gives us the proper bigness that we're supposed to get from this particular figure when it's standing next to 4-inch characters. Because in the video games, Mecha Sonic was actually very tall. And the proportions of the Grimm Sonic robots were actually perfect for it once, I gave it a new head and arm and leg bits. So yeah, everything worked out really well for this one. Of course, I wasn't always just making big stuff. I also made a Sage figure in the Jazzwares scale. My original intent was to make Sage for the Jakks Pacific line, but the head I printed was too small. But then I realized that the base body that I bought was also too small, so I went ahead and made it anyway, and now I have Sage in the Jazzwares scale. Besides, I'm fairly certain that we will eventually get Sage in the 4-inch line for Jakks Pacific. I just have a really big feeling for that. If we don't see a new Sage figure by the end of the year, then I'll probably make a 4-inch scale one. Probably use that Jazzwares Anya figure. But, yeah, we got Sage. Who loves Sage? And then I made another Whisper figure. This is a commission. This was a pretty big undertaking. It's not the first time I ever made Whisper. It's not even the first time I ever made her in this scale. But thanks to the Rouge the Bat figure coming out, I had a much more compatible base toy. So I really pulled out all the stops and made the best Whisper figure that I could. I like her so much that I think I'm going to take the old Whisper figure that I made and rebuild it using a Rouge body so that it can look more like this. But, that's for later because I'm, catching up on commissions right now. So I really feel like, despite all the effort I put into to make this the best Whisper figure I could, I still kind of got outdone by Pink GameCube because she went and, she used 3D printed parts that I sent her to make her own Whisper figure, and she really went out with the magnets and putting the capsules under the cape, which, that went a step further than I ever did. Yeah, I mean, magnet construction, how did that work? And finally, I wanted to acknowledge my little Link Sonic. This is the one that I made in the Jakks Pacific 4-inch scale, because I had made this figure before in the Jazzwares line. But, it was really fun to revive one of the big favorite crossovers that Sonic has done before. I mean, yeah, we always had the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, but it's not like Sonic put on a pair of overalls for that, right? So, for Sonic to fully embrace a crossover with a costume change is really cool. Hopefully we're going to get an action figure line for the upcoming DC crossover, but if we don't, then maybe. Anyway, those were all the figures that I made that were directly related to Sonic. So let's go off on a little bit of a tangent and take a look at all the OCs that I made this year. OCs, UCs, we all screams for OCs. I actually like making people's fan characters. It's actually one of the best parts of doing the whole customization thing, because you know that this is a perfectly unique piece that's very special to someone. And like I said at the beginning of the video, the first one was this adorable little fox girl. I do like the fact that she's wearing the Free Riders shoes, but they're 3D printed. So, I didn't have to go looking for a Free Riders figure. I really like those Free Riders shoes. Gotta bring that up in a bit. Some of these guys actually provided their own 3D models, of course. Like good old Corey sent the models for his own Arctic Fox guys, and I do remember the drama that I went through with Coco the ferret. Like my printer was down, so the commissioner tried to send me parts that they ordered from Etsy, but the guy on Etsy could not get the sizes right to save their life. Like the first time, like they sent like hands and feet that were Jazzwares size and his tiny little head. And the second time they sent the parts, like the head was the right size, but then the hands and feet were enormous. And like by the time they finally started to figure something out, my printer was already working, so I said, screw it, I'm just making the parts myself now, and I ended up making the parts. So that was kind of a fun little ride that we all went through for that one. And of course, for our favorite little cybernetic rabbit dude there, Metal Jacko, yeah. Like, I remember, like, actually going into Tinkercad and taking a metal Sonic head that I designed myself and modifying it into that bunny head. And I even made the feet myself in the same software. So like, you know, there's a little bit of me in there, like my own skills as a 3D model artist went into that. Of course, the tail is hand sculpted and the hands come from Sonic Forces models, but, you know, like, I put a bit more of myself into that than I usually do, at least as far as 3D modeling goes. Then, of course, you have the OCs that are kind of semi-official, like Knuckles' grandma and grandpa, which are absolutely not any kind of canon family that he has, but, you know, like, you know, they're OCs that are related to Knuckles, so they kind of have a little bit more legitimacy as characters, as well as Nazo. Like, it really does stretch, does Nazo count as an official character? Because he did appear in that pilot pitch for Sonic X, although there was absolutely no story about him. Like, it's been said that was intended to be a new super form for Sonic to take on that they ended up never using, but a lot of people just kind of glommed onto the fact that maybe that's just a completely new character. And so we got that Nazo Unleashed fan animation, and then we had the unmade sequel to that fan animation, and that's what this particular figure is. So, so like it's a sequel of a fan reinterpretation of an unused element from a pilot. So, how official is that or not, huh? And then, of course, we have, when my buddy Zach asked me to make that Metal Sonic head on the, Chaos Sonic body, which is, homaging Mecha Sonic from, you know, the thing, the Mario Brothers Z thing. So, like, that's several layers in. Like, I always kind of like having to convolute and explain the backstories of these things in the videos, like, here's how this thing came to be. And, of course, where are we going to be for fan characters if we don't have a whole bunch of hedgehogs? I'm actually surprised that there were only 5 this year. I am endlessly amused by the fact that 2 of them were brown hedgehogs, although, like, the degree of originality between them, like one being a relatively simple repaint, the other having a little bit more design element to him, but, you know, it's still, like, it's just a fun little thing. And, as you can see, like, there's a wide variety of figures that I made here. Like, some of them are Jax, one of them is Jazzwares, one of them was even Tomy-based. Like, I never actually, I almost never make customs on the Tomy figures, but, you know, one of them happened last year. And as you can see, like, 2 of them have soap shoes. And this is kind of an end of an era in itself, because now we have an official Sonic figure that has soap shoes. So, if anybody wants a custom related to soap shoes, like, we can use that one. I don't need to 3D print the shoes anymore. Which is great, because it's a major pain making the 3D printed shoes work on figures. Like, it's a pain to print them, to clean them, to paint them, and then to make them integrate onto the figures properly. Like, all that's such a pain. But now we're gonna have official soap shoes, so hooray! We're gonna do that in the future. So, you know, those were all the super fun OCs we made this year. But you know what? I'm no one-trick pony. Like, I am capable of making things that are not Sonic related, so why don't we take a look at everything I did that didn't have anything to do with Sonic last year? So yeah, non-Sonic stuff. I mean, I guess we can start off with stuff that's kind of tangentially related to Sonic, like Nights into Dreams. This 2024 was the year that I finally finished that Wiseman custom, which it like took me beyond forever. I don't think that I've ever had a project sitting undone for such a long time that I've actually completed. I think the only other thing is that Savanti Romero figure, from Ninja Turtles that I never actually finished, but that's, I'm not gonna get into that. And it's also been the year of me making things that you think I would have made a long time ago, but actually never had gotten around to, like that Knights. Like, I made Riala in the past, but can you believe that it took this long for me to actually make Knights themselves? Like, how long has that been, right? Like, I swear, when I made that figure, I actually literally went through my own gallery just to make sure I hadn't done it before. But really, I'd never made Knights before. I'd also never made Klonoa. Klonoa really seems like a character that I should have made quite some time ago. But yeah, it's another one that only now just got around to. Funnily enough, made for the same person I made Knights and Wiseman for. Isn't that hilarious? This is also a year that Conquer made a big resurgence. This isn't the same figure twice. This was actually two different figures. I think what happened was when I made the first Conquer figure, which isn't the first time I made Conquer, but it is the first time I made it in Jack's Pacific scale, someone saw it and said, "Oh, hey, that looks really cool. I want one too." So I ended up making a second Conquer a few weeks later. But yeah, Conquer. Good old mascot video game character who hasn't really been in anything for a long time. Speaking of abandoned mascot video game characters, let's show love for that entire genre with Gwimbly. I never thought that I would be asked to make a character from Cartoon Network like this. But yeah, Gwimbly just seemed like something that was so in my wheelhouse, because he's basically a parody of a video game mascot character from the PlayStation era that hasn't really been in anything for a long time. I feel like making Gwimbly is kind of on the same level of magnitude of me making Sly Cooper or Jack and Daxter, like a figure in that vein. Like, I think Ratchet and Clank are the only major Sony mascots that have had a game release recently. I think at this point, Spider-Man is more of a Sony mascot video game character than anyone else, and he's not even a video game character technically. But I'm not going to get into the politics of Sony's video game mascot tree. I'm going to discuss the other things I made. Like this girl from Cell Damage. Yeah, I don't really remember her name. I never played Cell Damage. I barely heard of it before, but when I just saw that I could use the stylized toy box figures of Spider-Gwen to make this really cool looking cell shaded figure look, like it was just it was just a really interesting and unique figure that I had a great time making. And of course, just because a video game character that I haven't made in a long time doesn't mean it has to be obscure. I made a young Link figure this year. I found an almost perfect base figure in that Dungeons and Dragons kid. Too bad the build quality of the figure itself is dubious. It's not like it's poorly made and shoddy feeling. It's that the joints on this thing just felt off. Like, they were too tight. Like, it's the kind of figure where, like, when you try to pose it, you feel like you're accidentally gonna break it because, like, you're afraid that, like, the clicks and ratchet joints in all the joints are stronger than the plastic that makes the pin discs. Like, it's a figure that's technically well made, but doesn't feel good. It was a really awkward position to be in. Of course, that being said, it did look great to make a young Link figure, and you could actually stand this next to like a 6-inch Link figure, like the Figma, and it would still look pretty good. Like, it would kind of match him in scale, because he's Link, and he's the young version of Link, so of course he's shorter. Of course, speaking of things that I hadn't made in a long time, how about things that I legitimately had never made before and never thought I would? Such as freaking 98 Godzilla. Like, whoever would have predicted that I would be making an action figure of 98 Godzilla? Of course, there's so many asterisks here. Like, this isn't only 98 Godzilla. This is 98 baby Godzilla. And it's not based off of the 98 movie. It's based off of the animated series that was based off of that movie. Which was actually a really good animated series. Like, it's kind of in the same vein as Men in Black, except with kaiju instead of aliens. Although some kaiju are aliens. And there were regular aliens in it too. But yeah, you know what I mean. Like, it had the same kind of animation style. I think it was made by the same animation studio, but I didn't exactly do my research. But yeah, like, this year saw me make a 98 Godzilla. Speaking of 90s movies, Small Soldiers, like Kip Killigan from Small Soldiers. I, again, never thought that I'd be making any Small Soldiers customs, and I thought if I ever did, I would be making an action figure of like Chip Hazard or Archer, the leader of the Gorgonites. But nope. Kip Killigan, because apparently there is a real-life toy line for the movie. Not a very good toy line, but it was good for the time, but it's kind of primitive looking by our modern sensibilities. But apparently, like, they didn't make all the characters, or if they did, they're really hard to find, so it's up to me to fill in gaps, I guess. So yeah, those were the ones that were, like, really, not Sonic related in any way. And that just leaves the final category, like the really super sentimental ones, those wedding cake toppers. There were two of them this year. One of them would be your traditional Sonic and Amy base, like they're the most common couple to put on these things. Except that it was kind of unique in that these were the 4-inch figures. I've almost always used the 2.5 or 3-inch figures for this, and it's the first time that someone actually wanted me to use the bigger ones. This actually makes this one of the biggest wedding cake toppers that I ever made, just based on the sheer size of the figures used on it, even though the format's pretty much exactly the same as it had always been. Interestingly enough, that they didn't go with the Green Hill theme for this one, but they instead wanted the Sky Sanctuary theme, hence the water fountain and the vine-covered pillar as the base. And then I ended the year on the last wedding cake topper, which was the first one to actually use Rouge the Bat and Knuckles as the bride and groom instead of the usual Sonic and Amy or Sonic and Sally. It's the first time that Sonic wasn't involved in a Sonic-themed cake topper. I really did love how the couple was kind of unique here and that the groom was the one wearing white and the bride was wearing black. Nice little role reversal there. But also, this is one of the most elaborate stages that I've ever made, homaging the Master Emerald Shrine from both the Adventure era and the Genesis era. Not to mention that 3D printed emerald being its own source of drama. I had to have my cousin make it on his bamboo printer because when I tried to make it, it broke my printer and it took me over a month to get the thing working again. But yes, that is 2024 in a nutshell. Everything that I made over the course of the year. Only a little over 40 figures, which is relatively low output for me. It's less than 1 figure per week. But, you know, like, we didn't have a pandemic to shut everything down, so leaving me in the house to do nothing but make figures for 3 months this year. So, you know, that's kind of why the output was a bit lower. Thank you all for watching. I'm hoping that 2025 will be at least as productive or more so. Here's a fun little teaser. I've already finished that Shade custom, so her figure is going to be coming up soon. Can't wait to see that, I'm betting. And yes, there is another wedding cake topper that you'll be seeing as well. I'm not sure which one will be revealed first. Here's a nice productive 2025, and hopefully I'll be able to, make the toys of all the characters that you guys would want to see or for other reasons wouldn't have been able to get. This is Wake Angel 2001, thanking you all very much and signing off.